So as much as I would like to get started on the control pack wiring first, just so I can start laying that out, I really need to do the Hydroboost stuff first. And probably we'll start looking at doing the cooling stuff as well, because those parts can't really go anywhere else. the Volvo pump has a certain range of where it can go, and those are going to be more of a fixed hard part. The harness we can kind of route where we need to, but I don't really want to route the harness and then find out I got to move it to do coolant tank or something. So we are going to jump straight into doing the Hydroboost / power steering hoses. So I've got the kit opened up here. These are all the fittings it came with and all the different hoses. They're all labeled pretty well from what I saw. So I will get those installed and figure out what that looks like. All right, starting to make sense of the hoses here. So this is all going to be the return system. This is the flexible hose. One of them's going to, or non-AN line, I guess I should say. Rubber line is going to go to the Volvo return. And then we have a return coming off the Hydroboost, and then we got a return coming off the rack, and they got to Y together into the return there. And then on the pressure side, we have the high pressure coming off the Volvo pump going to the Hydroboost, and then high pressure coming out of the Hydroboost will then go down to the rack down there. And then this is the low pressure return coming off the Hydroboost. So we'll have a third line running in here as well. So that's kind of the general layout of this, and then we'll figure out where I'm going to do the rack fittings now, and then we'll figure out where all the hoses want to sit, where they're happy, and then we'll figure out where the pump's going to sit after that. Oh, all right, well, I got the Hydroboost lines done. These are the fittings, and the hoses all came as a kit from a guy on Facebook. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but so they go, you have pressure from the Volvo pump to the Hydroboost, and then you got a return high pressure that goes to the rack, and then a low pressure return to the reservoir, and then this is also low pressure return out of the Hydroboost. And then down here we have the Volvo pump itself. I made a little bracket here to bolt to the structure of the core support, and then I have up here, I added a nutsert into the frame rail to bolt in there, and then all the way up there, I have a bolt that's coming in from this side that goes into the bracket with a J-nut. So I've got 3 points of contact there, and then I will still need to wire in the trigger wire and the power and ground for it, but as far as hydraulically, everything's plumbed out. So I can actually start filling this system up, and then I can actually jumper wire to this alone, and I can actually test my high pressure circuit before I even do anything else on the car. I could actually completely finish this system. I'm gonna pop my intake back off of here for the moment, and you can see where the filler neck comes through for the Volvo pump. So we got access to be able to get the cap off and add fluid without removing anything other than the air filter. So that'll be the plan there. And so once this is all actually built out, you'll have the reservoir sitting there and the filter sits here. So you can actually see it, but you can't really get access to it. So we will have to remove that to add power steering fluid, but that's not a big deal. All right, so a quick walk through the power steering system on this car and Hydroboost setup. We did hoses from a guy on one of the Facebook swap groups. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but I will figure out how to somehow put his information in the description below. And I'm going to walk you through what we did on this car. And I'm going to try to get this on camera here, but this is the high pressure coming out of the pump, and then the return is above it. And due to the location of the power steering system and due to the kit having a long enough hose, I was able to loop it into the factory power steering cooler. So this is the Volvo pump. This is the high pressure output of the Volvo pump. This is the low pressure return right here. Sorry. And due to the location of it and the kit having a long enough hose, I was able to loop the power steering return into the factory power steering cooler, which is just a pipe that runs across the front of the core of the cooling stack. But that's a big upgrade to be able to have the cooler still intact, and didn't have to do anything go out of my way to be able to use that. So that was sick. And this is the front side of the power steering cooler. It's just a metal pipe that runs from one end to the other and then back around. Nothing at all, no fins whatsoever, but it just sits there and helps. You're adding more volume to the system by filling up that pipe all the way around, and then you have airflow across it to help cool off. So I'm really glad to be able to use the cooler, and I'm glad that it worked with very minimal additional effort to get that plumbed into the power steering system. All right, so I started filling up my Volvo pump. I've got a long funnel down through the fender. Had to remove the air filter as we talked about. I had about a quart. I bled it already, and I got about a total of 1 quart in it. I did want to clarify on underneath here. So the fitting, the lower fitting on the rack is the pressure fitting, and the upper one is the return. With the power steering cooler and with Hydroboost and with the steering rack, like I said, total I had about a quart in it. I don't believe there was much in the Volvo pump when I started, and the rack probably had some in it, but I know we lost a lot when we moved the car and turned the wheel. We pushed a lot out. And I guess the Hydroboost really just doesn't hold much. So really you're just filling up lines, but I said I needed about a quart to fill up mine. Actually, I have a little bit overfilled in the funnel that needs to come out. And I will probably, if I have time, I'll probably make some sort of little dipstick in here that you can pull the cap off and then put a dipstick in it, because the fill line is on the side of the reservoir and is real difficult to see. Even with light, it's real difficult to see. So I don't want to end up where we have no idea how full it is. So I'll probably get this thing full and see if I can't make some sort of dipstick that goes down the filler neck. And then on the wiring side, I've got my jump box connected just so I don't have to deal with all the vehicle electronics right now, but just for pressurizing and bleeding. But power and ground are pretty obvious on the connector on the pump. The harness has 3 wires coming off of it. These 2 are the CAN bus wires that are communicating fault codes to the car. You don't need to do anything with those. You just need the light green wire. Light green does not look like it has a tracer on it. And this needs to go to positive. So what happens is, without the CAN bus communication, the module defaults to turning on pressure all the time as just a safety feature. So that's how all the guys work around trying to install these in other vehicles, is basically you just provide power to it to turn the module on, and then you're left with the pump defaulting to on all the time, which is what you want with Hydroboost. So there's a little bit of a delay here, so I'm going to show you when I turn the power on. So you can hear it took about 2 seconds or so for the pump to kick on. So just letting you know, that way you don't get startled when you're playing with it and it doesn't turn on immediately. You don't freak out, and when it does come on, it doesn't scare you with that side of it either. So I've heard a lot of people talking about how loud these pumps are, and honestly, they're not that loud. I kind of expected it to be louder than it is, to be honest with you, but it does make some noise, but honestly, I've heard fuel pumps that are louder than that. So I'm going to get this wired into the actual wiring on the vehicle. And so basically you just need a ignition source, ignition on for that little green wire, and then power and ground is, like I said, pretty obvious there. And then it's factory, I believe, had a 40 amp fuse for it. So if you're installing a fuse separate just for that, then try to target a 40 or 50 amp, probably going to be a mega fuse style. So I'm going to wrap up this power steering video. I think I've covered everything that I did on it. I appreciate you watching another video of mine, and I will catch you on the next one.